evening, and welcome to Behind the Shadows. My name is Susan Finelli, and I am your host and author of Behind the Shadows, a program where we go behind the shadows of what meets the eye. This evening, we will be going behind the shadows of AIDS-free Africa. Our very special guest tonight is Dr. Rolande Hodel. Dr. Hodel received her Master's of Science in Inorganic Chemistry from the University of Kansas in 1995 and her PhD in Organic Chemistry from the City University of New York, Queen College in 2005 with Professor Harry Gaffney. Dr. Hodel received the 2009 Astellas USA Foundation Humanitarian Award for her work as a founder and president of AIDS-Free Africa, a nonprofit organization dedicated to empower Africans to produce essential drugs locally. The organization is based in New York, and its website is www.AIDSfreeAFRICA.org. Dr. Hodel, welcome to Behind the Shadows.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here this evening. You know, AIDS is such an epidemic, and I think everyone in one way or another has been affected by it, either in their community, friends, or loved ones, and it's an important topic that I think we should discuss. Before we get to the organization, tell us, how did you get involved and interested in organic chemistry?
Well, I'm a chemist. Actually, I got involved when I was young. My parents tried to help me to find out what profession I wanted to be, and I kept on saying I want to do math. And there weren't too many jobs, you know, what do you do? And my father one day was reading the newspapers. This was back in Germany. And there was a big advertisement of BASF, one of the largest chemical companies in Europe especially. And I said, yes, that's it. So I became a lab technician first, and then stayed there, came to the United States, and you read my credentials.
Yeah, and indeed, fine they are. Well, I understand that AIDS-Free Africa is your brainchild, and if I may, I'd like to read your mission statement, and then we can go forward and talk about the organization. Okay, so AIDS-Free Africa is a community of professionals dedicated to empower Africans to become self-sufficient in producing pharmaceuticals. The vision of AIDS-Free Africa is Africa free of HIV/AIDS, and to provide the world with the capacity to produce life-saving drugs and an expression of your commitment to peace, health, and human dignity. What inspired you?
What inspired me is really a talk by President Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil at that time. In 2003, I am representing International Peace Organization at the United Nations.
Currently,
and still, and back then. The organization is called Servas. It's a peace organization. And
can you spell that for our audience?
Yeah, it's the organization is called Servas. SERVAS.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was at the United Nations at a big conference, and President Lula da Silva was the keynote speaker. And he told the audience how Brazil had managed, as a developing country, to get a handle on the AIDS crisis. It was fascinating. And how he did it is, he had a pharmaceutical production capacity in the country, but he went and told them to break the patents and to produce the drugs. I kind of knew that Africa didn't have even the capacity to produce the drugs. It was not the question of breaking patents. And by the time we came around, there were enough drugs that can be produced without breaking patents. So I figured I'll go to Africa and help them to produce drugs. And, you know, once people take the drugs, they see that you can live, and then they get tested, and you know the ball is rolling.
Well, is Brazil? I mean, are they on their way to being AIDS-free or AIDS-controlled?
AIDS-controlled. Yes.
It's AIDS-controlled.
Yes.
Yeah.
They, at the time, the United Nations had calculated by now they would have had 1.2 million HIV/AIDS cases. They have only 600,000.
Well, that's half.
That's half.
That's half.
And those 600,000 are on medicines.
I see, yeah.
Their life, they can live, they can grow and see their children grow up.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. So I understand that over 6 years ago, you went to Africa and talked to everyone and anyone who would listen to you, and the standard answer was, it cannot be done.
Correct.
So how'd you do it?
I kept talking. I kept talking and finding people, and I kept asking 3 questions. What is it you want? What is it you need? And what is it you already have? And what's not working, what's broken.
Right.
And then I would come back to the United States and find all these things, and the technology, the people, the this. And we were successful in almost all areas. We would have wished we had more money, but we managed with a small budget still. So,
I can imagine that there were political hurdles that you had to overcome, both here and there, to accomplish what you're accomplishing.
It might be, depends on what you mean by it. It's we don't have the problem that Brazil had back then when they broke the patents. The pharmaceuticals were very mad at them.
Right.
And Africa is so far not even covered by patents. So you can actually produce everything that you want to. But that's right now not even necessary. It's really not a topic anymore. So no, we haven't. The political things is more,
the government.
The government, yes. It took us 18 months to get a license to import and sell a thrush medicine that we had been offered for free from Belgium. So that was all on a non-profit base, and it was all donations, but I needed that license.
Of course.
And to be honest, I had temper tantrums because it took 18 months.
Yeah.
When I got the license, people in Germany especially were saying, it took you only 18 months?
Only?
They were ecstatic. So now they're calling me and saying, Rolande, how do you get drugs into the country? And I tell them.
You're a drug dealer now.
Yeah, you're right. I'm a drug dealer, right? I mean, the good drugs.
The good drugs.
The medicines.
Good drugs.
The medicines,
And what about on our side? Were there political hurdles with our government to allow you to do what you're doing?
No, not whatsoever. And actually quite the opposite. If you have to imagine, when you found a non-profit organization, you have paperwork with the IRS, right? And they have to approve you. You have to get an approval for your 503
is it?
501c3.
Yes,
501c3.
that's it. Yeah.
I should know because I wrote this entire thing. And we have a law firm that is volunteers to help us with these things. And the corporate guy said, Rolande, you can't have the word production in your mission statement. And I said, Bruce, if I don't have production there, I have no organization.
What are you doing?
I have no more purpose.
Yes.
I said, we're going to leave it in. I made the executive decision. I said, this word stays in. The IRS approved the organization in a heartbeat. It took us only 3 months. They never even asked the same question.
They never even asked the same question.
Yeah. So our government has been absolutely fabulous.
Well, I'm sure they want to control it because, the faster it gets controlled in Africa, that translates to, a faster control here in the world, not only here, but in the
general, everyone thinks it's a great idea. It was just the first 3 years, people were constantly saying, this can't be done, because they thought that Africans are not ready to do such a complicated thing as producing drugs.
Now, I know that you have other drugs in the pipeline. Is that so?
Actually, I give you the really great news.
Yes.
In last year, we had the announcement that one of the companies would start production. In January, they started production.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Congratulations.
You
heard it here first.
Right. Yes. It was so wonderful that I thought, oh my God, now I have to go and get retired. I thought I need a new organization. But so now they're producing, I tell you what they're making. They're making painkillers, Tylenol basically, paracetamol, antifungals, antibiotics, and IV fluids. So not AIDS drugs right now.
Right.
Because I tell you, right now, the Global Fund and PEPFAR, the President's Emergency Fund for HIV/AIDS, are paying for the AIDS drugs. They're coming from India.
I see.
And they are very more complicated to produce than what they're producing right now.
Right.
But really, I tell you, when I came to Africa, asking my questions, what do you have and what do you need? They had the AIDS drugs.
They did.
The bottleneck was the antibiotics, the painkillers.
I see.
Because the Global Fund right now pays for the AIDS drugs. But people have to be healthy to a certain degree to be able to tolerate create the AIDS drugs.
Right, exactly.
So we said, fine, if you need these drugs, then produce that.
Right.
And remember, all these companies are owned by the Cameroonians.
I see.
This is something that I have set up the organization. This was a must.
Right.
I went and said, find me people who want to produce drugs.
Yes.
And we found people, and we started talking, and
here we are today.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, your organization also is to help expand, maintain, train, and troubleshoot.
Yes.
So is your vision that one day someone in Africa will take your place and you won't have to go there and you can go on to another part of the world?
Yes, yes. We actually wanted to, our plan had thought that in 15 years we would be in 5 countries. So now we're in year number 6 and we're still in the first country.
Right.
But it's fine, you know, but we're hoping to replicate it and to move on, or to find people. You know, I've talked to, now I can't think of the organization. There's a great organization there in Kenya and in Ghana, and I said, you know, if you want what we're having,
right,
I'll come and your organization can do it. You know, I train people, I'll help you do it, but, you know, I stay in Cameroon. So we'll see how this develops, you know, if I'm going to go, but it looks rather that I find organizations who are going to do that in other countries.
Now, do you have a scientist from Pfizer that's volunteering his or her time to help you?
Yes, we had a volunteer who came in for 3 weeks, and he did a marvelous job. Because we needed to understand. So this company that just now started production, right?
Yes.
I first thought, well, you're producing. I should go home and retire, and that's it. Isa Hamajodat, the principal pharmacist for the company, he said, no, doctor, we need 3 things. We need educated people who can help us run the departments. We need more people. We trained 300 people.
Right.
We need more. They trained everyone in Cameroon who was around to be trained for it. They said, we need more technology, we need machines, we need troubleshooting. Because when something breaks down, they fly in a guy from Egypt. And that's expensive.
Of course. Of course.
So yesterday I was in New Jersey. And there are people filling up 5 crates. There are humongous 4x4x4 boxes with equipment from the pharmaceutical industry here. Companies that closed down. We have the whole list. We said we were able to pick and choose. We have really HPLCs, high quality machines for the quality control of these drugs, which the company told me that they need these machines. And I had promised them I will find it. And I did.
And find it you did.
Yes. And they're basically now in the container. So these are the kind of things that we're able to do. What I do a lot is I hook up the right people with each other, the right resources with each other.
Right.
And now that we have shipping capacity, it's really great.
It's terrific. It's terrific. Now, I know that in addition to pharmaceuticals, you're doing more for the people of Africa. And I know that you feel that charity alone is not the answer. You know, teach someone to fish and they'll eat forever. Give them a fish and they'll eat for that one day. So I know that. So let's talk a little bit about, I know you say that poor people, they seek dignity, not dependence.
Yes, which means creating jobs.
Yes.
It really boils down to creating jobs. We really think that giving things for free is not really a good option. It makes people dependent, and it creates the opposite of dignity. When I go there, even if I just bring a 50-pound box with medical supplies, which I take in the airplane with me, I bring this box and I said, I'm going to bring you this box with the supplies that you need, but you're going to feed me and host me. So there is something in return.
A barter agreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
We barter a lot.
We barter
a lot.
Yeah.
You know. We get these AIDS tests and we go and we say, okay, fine. You give me $1 and we'll test you.
Right.
We take this money, we train your village people to do the testing when I'm gone, because I constantly have to make sure someone does the work that I do, because I need to go home.
Sure. Well, how do the doctors get trained? Do Doctors Without Borders go there and help train those doctors, or because this is something new to them? So how do they get trained?
Actually, the sad news is when I came into the country in 2005, Doctors Without Borders was just leaving, because Doctors Without Borders is an emergency organization. They are not allowed to stay longer than 5 years, because they say anything longer than 5 years is not an emergency.
Not an emergency. I see.
Right. But what we have right now, since you're asking it, since September 22nd, we have a medical doctor from Romania in the village. We adopted a village of 30 to 40,000 people. They don't even know really how many there are. The village is far off from the beaten path. I tell you, it is a schlep to get there. And I was kind of like, oh my God.
What I get myself into now.
Yes, exactly. But we adopted them because the man, Albert, the von Albert, who is ruling this whole area, is such an absolute fascinating man. I said, I have to come back. So we got this, because these 30 to 40,000 people have one nurse.
Oh boy.
There is no doctor, no pharmacy, no drugs, nothing. So
how do you get the villagers to trust you? I mean, here you are, very different from them in many ways, not only your blonde hair and your fair skin, but, you know, in many, many ways. So, you know, I'm sure when you go in there, people are timid or they're untrustworthy. So how do you break that barrier?
And there is one other thing is, you know, you don't want to go into a village and sort of like say, oh, I know what you need, or I know how to do it, right? That's why I go in a village and I said, tell me what you need.
Right.
Tell me what's working, what's not working.
Right.
But in ESU, what we did is, I have a collaborator whom I had helped with his hospital in Limbe, but his hometown is that village, ESU. And his goal was to get, you know, drugs and doctors and medical supplies and get me to this village.
Right.
So he took me there and he introduced me to the FON. And I made an agreement, a written agreement with the FON. He wanted me to come back. And I said, von Albert, if you want me to come back, you need to host me. You need to pick me up from the nearest, which was still far enough away.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, I want some backup guarantee. I want a piece of land. And I told him, I said, you're going to be responsible for the money, for the projects, and for everything. And actually, to be honest, I gave all these conditions because I really actually didn't want to go back.
You figured if I make it hard enough, they'll say so long, right?
Especially with a piece of land, right?
Exactly.
I thought, he's never going to go for this, right? You know, I said, he's going to say no. He not only said yes, he totally went out of his way. He did all of this. He introduced me properly. He set up meetings with each of the groups in his village, with the elders, with the parliamentarians, with the queen mothers.
The witch
like
doctors, yes, I can imagine.
Yes, you know, the voodoo doctors.
Voodoo doctors, absolutely.
You know, the cracks and everyone.
Yeah.
You know, we founded, and then we founded the youth associations. And we founded a group that is called the ESU Family Health Association, which is a group of HIV/AIDS positive people. And if you know anything about Africa and AIDS, they don't even want to say the name.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah. When I come and say AIDS-free Africa, you can hear the noise in the group kind of, whoa, you know, they go, oh, wow.
Is it a stigma or is it denial?
Oh my God, it's all of it.
It's all of it?
Yes, it's disinformation, it's stigma, it's denial, it's sheer fear, because they know by the time you get diagnosed with it, it
reminds me of the leper colonies. It really does.
It really is.
It reminds me of the leper colonies.
Yes.
Now, what about the language barrier?
Most of them speak English. The villagers speak, the country is bilingual, French and English.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And I have people who translate for me in French because my French is definitely not good enough. But I am most of the time in the English-speaking part of the country. And then they have their 270 distinct tribal languages.
Oh, my.
But I understand Pidgin English, which is the main tribal language. I understand it. I can't speak it. And in ESU, I find someone that translate for me because some ESU people just speak ESU.
I see.
Whatever the real name for that particular tribal language is. So,
So, free is not free.
Free is not free.
Free is not free.
Yeah, and it's really better. I really believe in that. We're doing well with that.
Well, I know that you have a volunteer program.
Yes.
That does more than, I mean, I think there was a crocheting, yes, let's talk about, I read that about they crochet, they sell, and then what do they provide for the schools, or?
I tell you, it's actually, it started when one of my volunteers, her name is Ann Higgins.
Yes. Yeah.
And I wrote her this email and I said, Ann, you can't believe it. These ladies that asked me for $4 to buy crocheting yarn so they can crochet a hat, take half of the money, buy oil, and pay the tuition for the kids, and take the other $2 to buy more yarn.
Right.
they're crochet hats, what the men wear.
Okay,
it's
those little cap,
the little caps. Yeah,
yes.
And they have different colors and patterns, and they communicate the status and wherever the village they belong to.
Right.
So it's quite intricate. And Anne was so moved, touched, and inspired that she sent us $20. And with those $20, these women
built a school.
Yeah, they went totally gagas and bananas, really.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, they were kind of like, so they put this money in and they buy it and they crochet, and it created jobs for people.
It's absolutely wonderful.
You know, and it is perpetual.
It is perpetual. Yes, it is perpetual. Now, do you see a reduction in the epidemic since you've started? Or just a control of the epidemic?
You know, I have to say, the official government statistics go down, which we are not quite sure if it's true or not. And I have to say, I don't have enough control over that.
Right.
ISU especially is an area that has been known also to the government as very high. They have up to 15% HIV/AIDS, which is high for Cameroon.
That's high, yeah.
It's supposedly just about half. But to be honest, it's still very difficult for a country like this even to keep really track of it. I'm not really sure which one of these numbers we should trust or not.
Right.
What I understand is that we need to have people be treated for all the existing untreated illnesses, so they can get strong enough to even face HIV/AIDS.
To fight it.
We are sort of like still in the pre-stages of the whole epidemic in Cameroon. You know, that we still have to create the infrastructures, the doctors.
Yeah.
How do you treat a village that has 50% HIV/AIDS? You have 30,000 people and you don't have a doctor.
No doctor and one nurse.
Yeah, no doctor and one nurse, you know.
So I'm assuming there's no hospital.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm assuming there's no hospital.
And the next hospital is so far away that the people can't afford
to get there.
So you know what we did? The first thing we did is we put A and B together. We looked, so the front set us up this meeting with HIV/AIDS positive people, which was boggling my mind because normally they don't even say the name. These people came to the meeting, they knew that I knew that they were positive.
Right.
The whole group. But I was sitting in the meeting saying to my collaborator, I said, Polycarp, what do we do with these people? You know, I'm not a medical doctor. And I don't have the drugs in my pocket and it doesn't help either. So here comes a man who said, you know what? He is the administrator that works with the nurse. He said, you know what, I have the patient box. I'm going to go to this hospital in Woom, in the district hospital, and bring every month the AIDS drugs. So people don't have to go there and everyone has to spend money, which they don't have.
Go back and forth.
So now they can pick up the AIDS drugs in ISU. That was such a big thing that people started joining the association, because we said, if you join the association, it doesn't cost them anything. They just have to join.
Right.
I said, they get you the drugs. The drugs are free anyway.
The drugs
it's just
free.
the transport, you know.
Exactly.
It was fabulous. And then Christian came back this year and he said, you know what? I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to organize a bus trip, because every 6 months they have to go and get diagnosed, blood work and so on.
Right.
And I'm going to go with them, because we never know their results and we really don't know how they're doing.
Yes.
So we're creating an infrastructure how these people actually get treated and looked after, and that the nurse has the proper numbers and diagnostics.
Yes, of course.
To know what to do.
There has to be a registry, exactly. Otherwise,
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the orphans, because there must be orphans as a byproduct of the disease. And is your organization currently involved, or is it in the plans to help these orphans?
Not particularly, and I tell you why. Cameroon, especially the Northwest Province, they love their children. And they freely give you their baby.
Really?
Yeah, I picked them up and I play with them anytime, and I was at the beginning quite surprised that people would just give you your baby.
And that the babies would be so
happy and you know, everything. But they told me, they said, you know, doctor, your child belongs to you only as long as it's in the womb. When it's born, it belongs to the community. Remember Hillary Clinton's It Takes a Village to raise a child?
To raise a child.
That's what they do. These orphans, I go in households, everyone has 3, 4 children that are not their biological children. And I find this much more perfect than putting them separately in an orphanage, to be honest. So,
just the idea of an orphanage is heart-wrenching.
Right. And it's against their normal children.
Absolutely.
So, so we're kind of glad we have gotten involved, like when we get volunteers who are not medically or pharmaceutically oriented.
Right.
We connect them with the local schools, and they volunteer there. It's not that easy because the kids, they see a white face and they go,
here's another one.
White man, and the whole classroom falls apart, and the teachers go, oh my God, I just had them all sitting there doing
quiet,
that, and now they're all over the place.
Yeah.
But they love it anyway.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your volunteer program, because I read it. It was, very interesting, and I'm wondering if someone like me were to come. I'm not a pharmacist, or I'm not a doctor, a nurse. So, what would a person like me be assigned to do if I went to Africa? If I came to your organization and said I want to volunteer?
Right. The first thing I would do is I would ask you, in which capacity would you like to volunteer? If you have an idea, then we talk about it. If you don't, then I do my standard spiel, which is, would you be willing to live in a household close to a school, go to the school, and volunteer teaching English and teaching computers? Would you be willing to bring 2 laptops, train the teachers first, then the students, and leave these computers there? That's what we do with people, with you. Yeah.
Now, I understand that there are conditions for the volunteer program, which I urge your audience, if you're interested in volunteering, because I hear we're getting cued, that we're running out of time. I can't believe it.
Yes.
But go to www.AIDSfreeAFRICA.org and go under their volunteer program. It's very interesting, and someone out there may be interested in...
we love volunteers. We invite you to come. Cameroon is a peaceful country. It's a beautiful country. It's you have to be willing to throw cold water or water over you to take a shower. It's easy living, but it's wonderful.
Well, Dr. Hodel, I want to thank you so much for coming to speak to us tonight on such an important topic. And I'd like to thank you, our audience, for tuning in tonight. If there's a topic you would like to discuss with us, you can contact me at Susan@BehindTheShadows.com. If you've missed any of our programs, you can go to www.BehindTheShadows.com and click on Public Access Television. And until next time, remember, the brightest light shines behind the shadows. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful show.
Thank you so much.
It's so informative and so interesting, and I hope people will look at your website.